Well, good morning, everyone. Today is Monday, and if you're still here, thank you for hanging out and hanging around and sticking it out with me. It's been a rough couple of weeks, but today's a new day, and today is a new week as well, so we're going to try to do our best to really get back into just focusing a little bit more on doing this. It's always tricky, like I've said before, figuring out how to make sure that we're sharing everything, the ups and the downs and the reality of doing something like this. And that's sort of why I think it has been important to continue to show in whatever capacity I can, depending on my mental health and my mood and all of those things, how things are going. And I am using you guys and this as a way to motivate myself and get back into it, because you guys really are probably the biggest source of motivation that I have, even though it should be intrinsic and it should be my own health and all of those things. We know that isn't always the case, and so thank you guys, because I am able to use you as a way to motivate myself and get back into it. But we'll have time to talk about this a little more in depth, because I do want to talk about it more when we do our workout. But I wanted to make sure that we get started and get back into not just doing the post-game breakdown of a day, but let's just get back into what we were doing before, which is kind of filming every day. And now that I feel that I have a little more a little more energy, a little more of my mental capacities to do this. And so we're starting out with breakfast provided by the lovely Jolima. She's sort of taken over breakfast cooking duties. And we're getting back to our more traditional Latin breakfast. This is not a traditional Latin breakfast, it's just what we're having, because it's usually what she has. So I got my 3 fried eggs and 1 arepa. I still don't know the nutritional profile of the arepa. It's mostly carbs, but as we talked about, and as one of you guys pointed out very recently, I think it was Nissan Saxima, it said, that it was coming across like I was demonizing carbs, and he's absolutely right. There's no demonizing carbs. We should demonize. Well, nothing should really be demonized, but we should be avoiding unhealthy types of carbs. And as he was pointing out, most of that excess calories that we consume in some of the foods that we think of as bad carbs, like pizza and stuff like that, usually come from other sources as well. And so just want to make sure that I am portraying and sending out the right message, and that what I mean is coming across. And so thank you so much for pointing that out. But yeah, so this is a source of carbs that it's not very common in the US or in other parts of the world, but it is very common in Latin America. And I know my sister at some point worked with a nutritionist in Colombia. This is part of what is considered a healthy diet in Latin America. And so it's a good source of carbs here. And, I want to figure out the exact nutritional profile of something like this to see how it incorporates in reality. But again, we're going to be taking it one step at a time, and this seems to be a fairly nutritional breakfast. And so this is how we're kicking off the week and our day. And so I'm going to eat it, I'm going to have it, and then we'll probably try to get into a workout right after. So get yourselves ready, and I will see you in a little bit. So, something that's a little interesting here in Argentina is that you can't really find a lot of the, what we consider health foods directly in the grocery stores. They have these things called dietéticas, which is basically like a diet store, and they usually have some of the health foods that we're after. So today I'm going to figure out if I can get some like flaxseed and stuff here and some quinoa. So we'll see. So this, they have a little bit of MCT oil, and it's 29,000, which is roughly $29. They also seem to have here some 100% maple syrup, and it's $15. So it's interesting to see the prices of some of these things outside of the States. Okay, and here we have it. So I bought a bunch of different seeds. We'll take a look at them when we get home. And I bought some quinoa also to round out our grain blend. And this is a little store right next to the Argentinian capital, the Congress. So not far, it's about 2 blocks from home. The whole thing, we'll take a look at it again when we get there, but it's when we get home, but it's about about $10. $10 for all the seeds and the quinoa that we bought. And that is it, you guys. Let's get home and take a look at it. Okay, so what we ended up getting was 200 grams of chia seeds, 200 grams of sunflower seeds, 200 grams of sesame seeds, and then 200 grams of our flax seeds. And then, of course, this is, I don't even know how much this is, but this is our quinoa that we're going to be mixing with our brown rice, and this is going to be a main source of carbs. And so this was about $10. Not super cheap, but it's not horrible. So this is what we got. All right, and so decided to go ahead and have lunch before we do our workout, and this is what I came up with. So again, we're trying to figure out how to make these sort of building blocks of all the macros that we can combine, and hopefully we'll be able to find different ways to make them very palatable and stuff, or as palatable as possible. So what I ended up doing here is I took some of the, I was gonna film it, and then I was already with, my hands were dirty, I was already in the kitchen and all that, and it got a little messy, and I forgot to put on the camera. But basically, what I have is a little bit of the pork. ¿Cómo está?
Está bueno.
See?
Está buenísimo.
It's good? Mm-hmm. You have to say it's good.
It's good.
So I took the pork that we cooked on Friday, a little bit of the bone broth that we also made on Friday, and that was sort of like a base. We bought a tray of like vegetables that was already done. I want to get like my own vegetables and do it, but this was just like in order to do it quickly. So it had red and green pepper, carrots, zucchini, a little bit of mushrooms, and onions. And then there was some leftover rice that I'm using. And so I didn't weigh everything, and I don't know exactly the macros for all of this. But again, this is definitely headed on the more nutrient-dense type foods. And it's got a fair amount of pork, and a fair amount of the, a little bit, I guess, of the bone broth. So that gives us a little bit of fat, protein. Obviously, there's some carbs from the vegetables, carbs from the rice. And then the last thing that I'm going to do is add some of this fancy Argentinian olive oil. And so we'll see, just to give a little more fat. So not really measuring anything right now. We'll probably start measuring again sometime soon in the future, but as I'm getting used to these things and like figuring out the way to do it, I can start adding more things to the process. But yeah, this is it. This is going to be our lunch. We'll do our workout a little bit later, but so far so good, guys. All right, you guys. So now we've had a little time for lunch to digest, And it's time to do our workout today. We're doing it at the end of the day instead of the more at the beginning in the morning, but still good. It still counts. It's still Monday, so that's good. So yeah, let's get into it. Let's do the first set. Get ready, do whatever it is that you need to do, and we'll do it together. All right. Let's get going. One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. All right, first set down. I wanted to take today as an opportunity to talk about the stuff that's been going on for the last few weeks. And you guys have certainly taken notice as JP from JP Does It mentioned in one of his comments that he was mentioning that it was hard to watch because, there was the lack of discipline was just making it hard to watch, and that he could have just moved on to a new channel instead of sticking around and saying something. And I love you, man, for saying that and not quietly moving on. And like I responded to him, it's exactly the reason why I started this, because it's so easy to feel like if you don't do something, that we have decided to do, that no one will notice, and we'll just, no one gives a shit. And it, not having that external accountability makes it so that, well, no one cares, so fuck it. And the fact that you were willing to say something it's amazing, and entirely the reason why I'm doing this. And exactly that external accountability is what keeps us, or at least in this case, keeps me going. We've been doing this for a while now, and I don't know that this run would be as successful as it has been, or that I would be at this point if it weren't for you guys and the fact that we're trying to do this together and that you're willing to call me out on it. And so, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. I am working hard to get my ass back in gear. All right, let's do another set. 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. And so that, of course, it's really good that it happens, and it's really good for me to know that you guys are there and that you're seeing it and you're feeling it too, because I really am. And that's the negative cycle that sometimes we fall into that is so difficult to get out of, which is something doesn't feel quite right, so sometimes you just cut yourself a little slack, and then that can turn into not feeling your best, maybe because the foods that we're eating are making us feel a little lethargic or just out of it, which then makes you feel like, oh, I need a little more, or I need to take another rest day, or oh, I'm just gonna indulge another day because I really need it. And breaking that cycle, oh man, that's hard, because then every step that you take is sort of in the wrong direction, and the deeper you get, and it's so hard to get out of it once you're in it. But let's do another set, and then we'll keep going with this for a minute. We're 20, 21, 22,
23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30. And so these negative cycles, these sort of negative loops, toxic loops, I don't know, unhealthy cycles, loops, I don't know, are exactly that. They're very difficult to get out of it because I was eating crappy foods that I'm pretty sure were making me feel crappy. And then that in and of itself made me cranky or depressed and was making me want to reach for those comfort foods again, therefore making me feel more depressed and crankier. And, a bunch of you guys pointed it out. And the problem is that it's so easy to get into it and so hard to get out of it. It always feels like building a house of cards, if you guys have ever done that, where it takes so much effort and patience to start putting it together, and just one fucking thing and the whole thing comes down. And that's basically what I feel happened to me the last couple weeks. But I also felt and I mentioned this at the beginning of the video today, that to the best of my ability, and granted my abilities were severely limited this past 2 weeks, to the best of my abilities, to not shy away from what was happening and be honest and truthful and, share that with you guys. Because the reality for most people is probably going to look like that or something related to that. There are some people who are amazing, and the moment that they have that determination, I saw a video, I can't remember who it was, but he was mentioning in his video that it was, like his exercise was like 15% and nutrition was like 30%. But basically like half of what was helping him lose a bunch of weight that he already lost was his mindset. And when the moment that you have that, that's the most important part of it. And so there are some people like that who are amazing in the moment that they get going, they're able to maintain it. But I think that for the most part, for most people, it's probably going to look a little bit more like me, where we're making some progress, then we take a couple steps back, and then we make a little more progress. And yes, this last week was definitely very difficult. Last 2 weeks were definitely very difficult, and I really had a very tough time. But I'm willing to put a sizable bet down that a lot of you can also identify with that. And it might be difficult if you're going through it and seeing someone who's also going through it. Like that might, like if you were feeling motivated by my videos or my process, and that was a source of motivation for you, and then seeing me sort of have these difficult days and moments, that might feel pretty shitty, because then you no longer have that source of motivation you were relying on. But then there might be other people, and if you're out there, feel free to share your feelings about it. But there might be other people who just the mere fact of seeing that process of falling off the wagon, might look like, and then how it feels and how we can try to get back into it. So it's always been a difficult decision to decide to show those things. Let me do another set and then we'll keep going, because then I feel like I'm doing a lot of talking, not enough exercising. 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, 37, 38, 39, 40. it's always a difficult choice to decide what to show. And like I've mentioned many times before in other videos, so much of the internet and so much of social media can easily be basically a highlight reel of what something like this looks like. And so by the time you come across someone in your social media feed, they've already lost 100 pounds. And they've already, and so it's very easy to show that very impactful, like I used to be so overweight and now I look like this. And that's, of course, that's sexy, and that it feels good. It gets you going and feeling like, oh yeah, I can do that too. But the reality is so different. This is what it looks like. The grind, day in and day out, all the things that you have to do. And if you have struggles with mental health, this is what it looks like also. And that was me last week. And so it's difficult because when you're feeling at your worst, is when you're, and you're feeling really depressed and anxious and all the things that I've been feeling for the last few days, last couple of weeks. That's when it's most difficult to do this. I'll do another set and we'll keep going. 41, 42, 43, 44, 45, 46, 47, 48, 49, 50. And so in those moments when you're feeling so miserable and so depressed, turning on the camera is so hard. And the best that I could do was basically what you guys saw in the videos last week, because I didn't want to not acknowledge that those days were happening. And yes, they're not good, they're not easy to watch, they're not motivating, they're not sexy, they're not giving you any dopamine. But I felt that it was important to share them because they need to be acknowledged. That these things are going to happen. And this is what it looks like in real time. And so if we want to go back and see this entire process, if I ever make it to, and I will make it, but when I make it to whatever my final more, maintenance weight is, we can see how many days it took and how that process was, and we can see all the ups and downs and how difficult it was to do this in the way that we're trying to do it. And so they are difficult to watch, but I think it's important. And of course, I thought about, like when I was feeling at my worst, I really thought about okay, let's turn on the camera and just kind of show what we were feeling. And that one's trickier because at that moment is when we feel the most insecure. And that's when I feel the most insecure. And I feel like this is going to turn into a fucking pity party. No one wants to see this. No one wants to see you whine or mope, and we all want to be like, yeah, I got motivation for fucking years. And so in those moments, I don't know, you guys can tell me if, whenever that happens again, because those days are probably going to happen at some point, because that's fucking life. Do you want more openness and honesty at the risk of sounding whiny and mopey and like I'm looking for pity? I don't know. That's something that we can maybe all decide together. But I decided this time that I couldn't do it, probably mainly because I was feeling very insecure about it and feeling like it was only going to just turn people off. But then, in retrospect, I decided it's still important to talk about what happened and to talk about those things in real time because they were happening. You know, technically not in real time, but, you know, I was with a little better perspective, you know, getting out of the darkest hole that I was in, be able to look back in those days and reflect on what happened that day in real time so that, you know, each video that you're getting is a snapshot of what was happening that day and how I was feeling and all that stuff. And so, again, you know, it's tricky, but I'm choosing to err on the side of oversharing a little bit, even if that is not as exciting and, you know, the opposite, in fact. Let me do another set. Uh, 51, 52, 53, 54, 55, 56, 57, 58, 59, 60. Whew, 60. So that's always very tricky, trying to figure out what it is that we want to do and what direction we want to take it in. And I was also finding my way. It also took time to find my way to this new thing and that I'm trying to do. And so when we started out back in the States, you know, you guys saw day one, but there was preparation leading up to it. I've been thinking about it my entire life, or at least my entire adult life, because I've been trying to lose weight one way or another for the last, you know, almost 20 years. But this newest, you know, and what is going to be our last ever push into health, was sort of, you know, brewing in my mind for months and thinking about like what I wanted to do and how I wanted to do it. And I had enough time to plan out the system and, you know, all the things that you guys saw at the beginning of the videos. Created my little bubble and all of that stuff. Let me actually turn on the AC because it's starting to get a little warm in here. We're supposed to be going into fall here in the southern hemisphere, and it's really humid today. And so, yeah, I already had all my things at that point figured out. And so going into it, even on the days where I was feeling the worst, I knew what to rely on. And it was very easy. There was very little friction to that. But getting here, all that, I really just didn't anticipate how much of that friction or that lack of friction that I had in the US was from all the preparation that I did. And so I'm working on the preparation again. So like you saw today, you know, I didn't really weight any of the foods, but I also have now a little bit of time under my belt and a little bit more experience. And that meal was probably pretty decent as far as nutrition goes and stuff. And I feel pretty good. So let's do one more. 61, 62, 63, 64, 65, 66, 67, 68, 69, 70. And so that's the one thing that we're working on, is getting back to creating more of those building blocks that can help us reduce the level of friction that we were experiencing. So there you have it, folks. That is basically what I've been working on. And I am feeling a little bit better. My mental health is coming back a little bit. I have continued taking my meds, obviously. not making that mistake again. Which is something that happens. I think it's so interesting that it happens where, and if you guys are on any kind of medicine, any antidepressants, you might have experienced this thing that happened to me multiple times, which is you get diagnosed and your doctor suggests you go on some kind of meds, antidepressants, and then you start taking them and you start feeling a little bit better and you start feeling good again, or at least not as depressed again. And it makes you feel like, you know what? I don't need the pills anymore. And so you go off your antidepressants because you're feeling good. So you don't feel like you need them anymore. And then the depression slowly creeps back in. Oh boy. All right, let's do one more. We're at 70. 71, 72, 73, 74, 75, 76, 77, 78, 79, 80. And so you go off your antidepressants and the depression slowly creeps back in, and then you're depressed again, and eventually you go back on the meds because you need them again, and slowly you start feeling better, and you know what happens next. You, once again, like you fucking forgot what happened last time, you start feeling like you don't need them anymore and decide to go off your antidepressants again. And little by little, I did that cycle many times, and I started taking Lexapro about, I want to say maybe it's 2 years ago, maybe a little over 2 years ago. This last one, for a number of years I was on sertraline, which is another antidepressant. At some point I was taking sertraline and bupropion, and I don't know if these meds make any sense to you, but I was taking that. Then I went off of sertraline and bupropion, and for a while I was on a newer drug called Trintellix, but it was really expensive. It was again fine, but it was really expensive, and then just the thought of how expensive it was creating anxiety for me. And so I was feeling better and decided at that point, it's really expensive and I don't feel like I need it anymore. I'm going off of it again. And then after suffering for like almost a year, it was really a miserable fucking year. This time around, I went back on, but I tried, my doctor suggested I do Lexapro. And yeah, it's been pretty good. You know, it doesn't solve all your problems, clearly. You saw last week, but it does make things a little more manageable. And so if you feel like you have a little more bandwidth to work with. I want to check my heart rate now that I'm working out. And so I want to measure my heart rate when I'm done with this set. We're at 80, right? Yeah. 81, 82, 83, 84, 85, 86, 87, 88, 89, 90. Okay. Let's check my heart rate. Where are you? Right here. All right, let's take a look. 112. I really thought it was going to be more. I thought our heart rate was going to be a little bit higher, but not really. 112. let's measure it in a minute again before we do the final set and see what it looks like. But yeah, so, you know, you guys let me know what you think as far as, you know, this whole thing. And what you thought about last week and the videos last week, how you felt about it. Because, yeah, I mean, the whole point is to show everything. And everything means the good and the bad. And again, like I said before, I don't really want anyone to ever get the wrong idea about me breezing through this like it was, you know, another fucking highlight reel of like, I went from being 350 pounds to like on the cover of this magazine. You know, that's such bullshit. All right. 112 was when we did it. And now, (102), 98, 94, 90, 86, 84, 84. Oh, it's dropping quickly. It was in like, yeah, low 80s. Low 80s. 84, what it decided it was doing. So, all right, guys, last set, and then we are done with today's workout. Oh, 91, 92, 93, 94, 95, 96, 97, 98, 99, 100. We did it, you guys. Thank you for another good workout. We are doing this. We only have a little bit of food to have tonight or in a little while, and then we are done. Okay, see you guys in a minute. So since I'm already here and I have these guys laying around, I decided to do 50 of these curls, I believe they're called. And whew, my arms are burning. So I wanted to do 100 and I thought, then I realized, oh, no fucking way. So I'm gonna do 50 and these are the last 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, ooh, fuck, 10. So these are only 5 kilos, and when I started doing it, the first set, I was like, oh, this is fucking nothing. And I went for like 20 straight, and then I thought, okay, I'll do 100. You know, 5 sets of 20, because this is fucking piece of cake. Oh, then I could only do 10 at a time, and now my arms are burning, so. All right, we're gonna leave it for now. You know, it's something, so we're gonna leave it at this for now, and then we'll do a little bit of food later, and that is it, guys. It really does feel better to be doing this again, being back a little bit. It's been rough. It really has been. It sucks. There's just no other, there's no justifying it or glorifying it or anything. It's just shitty. But yeah, that's it. All right, see you guys for dinner. Okay, so it's time for dinner. And since I just had a workout, feeling a little hungry, we're gonna make some ramen with the broth that we cooked. And so we have a bit of a problem because we didn't have the Ziploc bags to freeze it, and we ended up freezing the whole thing in a large container, like you see here. That's the pork, and then this is the broth. I know, I mean, we didn't have the tools, but Jolima here is so ingenious. She figured out a way to tackle this problem where I would have just been a mess. She knows how to do it now. So she takes out the whole thing and decides what portion we want. Yeah, maybe un poquito menos de pronto. No tanto, por lo que vamos a tener huevito. And basically that's how we're doing it. So we're gonna get, igual es reposar, ¿no?
Sí.
Oh, yeah. So I was just saying that we're gonna use that.
Así.
No, así está bien. We're gonna use that amount. And then, ponlo ahí. And then we're gonna do the same thing with the broth. And that thing is frozen solid. Okay. And then we do the same thing with the corta el resto de este pedazo. So we're gonna have a little broth. And that's it. Will you look at that? Okay. So we're gonna just gonna start cooking this, and that's gonna be, okay, so we have the bone broth. Sorry, I got distracted from it. We got the bone broth, we have some of the pork, we got some of our sesame seed oil and a little bit of soy sauce, and we have some noodles that we bought. We'll do some mushrooms, like just not a traditional ramen, but still be good. So, all right, let me just kind of get these things going, and then I'll show you the final result. So hang in there, we'll be right back. Okay, and so I put 2 eggs in here, some of those dry mushrooms. We did, we're sharing one thing of noodles. It's got some soy sauce, it's got some fish sauce, it's got a little bit of oyster sauce. So, it's got our bone broth. And so there's a lot of nutrient-dense foods in here. And yeah, we'll see how it turns out. All right, and here we have it. So we ended up doing the bone broth that we cooked on Friday, and we have a little bit of the pork that we also cooked on Friday. We have the noodles that we bought. We have some of the dried mushrooms that are in here now. We have an egg, and I put a little bit of soy sauce, a little bit of oyster sauce, a little bit of sesame oil, just enough to give it some more flavor. And yeah, this is what we got. So it's gonna be a small-ish dinner, but there's plenty of protein in here, plenty of fats, and good. That is basically it. I'm gonna enjoy my dinner, and then I will see you guys tomorrow. We'll probably have a quick breakfast and then head out, because we have our first, I don't know if we talked about this, but I signed up for like a ping pong club. I think we did. And so I'm gonna be doing like a ping pong club and I'm doing twice this week, and we'll see where we go from there. But yeah, finally getting back into a rhythm and a groove and stuff. And so this is good, guys. I will see you tomorrow.